Detroit Homecoming has been made possible by Urban Science, guiding business through science. Make decisions by what you know, not what you think. And by the William K. Kellogg Foundation, working with communities to create conditions for vulnerable children so they can realize their full potential in school, work, and life.
Good morning. It's almost lunchtime. My name is Jim Anderson. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an engineer by education, an inventor by vocation, and a serial entrepreneur and founder of my company, Urban Science. My passion is inventing best-in-class solutions to our clients' previously unsolved mission-critical problems in the data analytics space. We then embed those solutions in software, fuel them with data, and deliver them around the world through our 18 offices around the world. Urban Science was founded in Detroit with one employee, that would be me, 42 years ago with $1,000. Back in the good old days, I was working on a PhD at Wayne State that involved, among other things, computer mapping in early stage development. A business school student who heard me talk about computer mapping went to work for one of the car companies. Her first assignment was to make a dot map illustrating the location of luxury car buyers in Chicago, all 36,000. The way it was done back then was to get 36,000 stick-on dots, a big map of Chicago, and spend 3 weeks pressing them on the map. This young student out of college thought that was a bad idea and said, "Why aren't you using a computer to do this?" And her boss said, "Well, we tried, but everyone told us it could not be done." She said, "I don't know about them, but I know someone who can," and that turned out to be one of the luckiest days of my life because her boss said, "How do I get a hold of that guy right now?" The rest is sort of history. We took the 16 hours to do 36,000 dots down to 16 hours. And then, we took the 3 weeks it took to do that by hand down to 16 hours. And through continual improvement, today we're at 1 or 2 seconds to accomplish the same goal. Over 99.999% reduction in labor time to produce that product. Last year, our revenue exceeded $200 million worldwide. At Wayne State, I continue to help inspire other entrepreneurs and engineers at the Anderson Institute in the College of Engineering, which my wife and I created. The mission of the Institute is to translate research and development into innovation and entrepreneurship that makes the world a better place. One of the startups from this Anderson Institute received help from our organization and is getting a Homecoming Award today. The talent pool in Detroit is strong and loyal. Business opportunities, especially in the digital space, are widely available to aspiring entrepreneurs wanting to invent the future. Investment opportunities are all around us, and I expect you have already observed some of them. So it's time to take action. However, my important work today is to introduce to you one of the great Detroit expats that make Detroit Homecoming so special, Jules Pieri. Jules is co-founder and CEO of the product launch platform called the Grommet. She is reshaping how consumer products get discovered, shared, and bought. Jules started her career as an industrial designer for technology companies and was a senior executive for large brands such as Keds, StrideRite, and PlaySchool. The Grommet is her third startup, following roles as vice president at Design Continuum and president of Ziggs.com. She is also an entrepreneur in residence at Harvard University. Jules will share with us today some concepts from her book, How We Make Things Now. I wish Jules had been here 42 years ago, because I am certain her experience and advice would have saved me countless hours of inefficient use of time, starting over and so on. So for everyone wanting to start a business in today's digital world, I recommend you read her book. A wise man named Benjamin Franklin said, "The only thing people have learned from history is people don't learn from history." Today is a chance to learn from Jules' history and accelerate someone, perhaps yourself or someone you are mentoring, become an entrepreneur, create a business, and help make the world a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Detroit Homecoming team, I am proud to introduce to you Jules Pieri.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Looking for a clicker, Colleen. I'll start. The clicker will show up. So I stand between you and lunch, and so I'm going to try to keep you as entertained as possible and show you a lot of really fun people and pictures and interesting lessons I've learned from doing this business for 11 years. So if I could have the first slide, please. Almost everything that for me happened here in Detroit. I grew up in the west side of the city, but I had a really meaningful moment in this building, October 20th, 2008. I pressed a button that changed my life forever. That's the button that I pressed to take the Grommet website live. And next slide, please. And I looked across the night before our shared IKEA desk at the woman in the foreground here. She's my co-founder, Joanne Domeniconi. And the reason I looked across at her and said a silent prayer to God, I said, "God, please forgive me what I'm about to do to this woman." Because she's our chief discovery officer, and she would be responsible for launching one product every single day. And that's what we've done ever since. We've never missed a day. Next slide, please. Oh, is it up there? I'm sorry. Thank you. So the cadence of this business, the pace has been relentless, but it's brought us to places and introduced us to people I would have never imagined. This is just 100 of them. We've launched 3,000 companies and 30,000 products. And the people who create these companies, these are consumer products, come from all walks of life, any demographic, all the geographies that Steve Case was talking about. And I'm going to introduce you to about 7 of them right now. And here's what I have to tell you, that Michigan and Detroit over-index. We look at 300 products a week to launch 5. Detroit and Michigan are overrepresented. And you deserve to be. We deserve to be. So the first few I'm going to show you are actually local. So this is Max Fieber. He invented this product while he was a student in West Bloomfield. And this is a cold brew coffee filter system that fits on top of any mason jar. Cameron Perkins and Diane are in Almont, Michigan, and they created the Orgo, Everything Orgo, which organizes everything you need on the go when you're traveling or even at home. Bruce Baker's in Ann Arbor, and he created Radius, Root Slayer, a gardening tool to help you cut, dig, and move things around in the garden. This is Ashley Wiggins in the middle. She's in Harbor Springs. Lake Art is not a map for navigation. These are maps, laser-cut maps that help you commemorate a favorite body of water. This was our top product in 2013 or 14. Eugene Zablotsky, not a Michigan person, he's a healthcare consultant, and he created Bite Keeper. It's supposed to be Bite Helper, not Bite Keeper. And Bite Helper is a device that actually reduces the sting and irritation, eliminates the sting and irritation of bug bites. Denise Sagai, she's in California. She's a yogi and an avid exerciser, and she created a mat to give you extra padding just where you need it. And then finally, Bonnie Tyler, she's in Connecticut. She was already an entrepreneur. She was a web designer before she invented this magical little device that peels a hard-boiled egg in just seconds. And I just want to give you one slice into her world and my world through a story. So Bonnie is 76 years old. This is a brand new world for her. Only 10% of our entrepreneurs have ever done anything like what they start to do when they're working on a product, including Bonnie. And when she had developed the product, she ultimately, like you do, needed to get a really refined prototype done. So she signed up for a 3D printing course at her local library. So Bonnie, 76-year-old, walks in, sits down, waits for the instructor. The instructor walks in. He's 11 years old. That's my world, folks. And it's a really exciting world. And here's the deal. If you're like the people I talk to all over this country, 1 in 3 of you already has a product idea. You're already thinking about something. And even if you don't, 100% of you know someone who does. You know somebody who aspires to this because 135 million Americans call themselves makers, from hobbyists to full-fledged entrepreneurs. And I wrote this book to basically capture the lessons I've had the privilege of learning from them. 11 years of watching them solve all the same problems in isolation. This did not have to be. So I codified the information, and today I'm going to try to give you like a really fast view of what I learned in codifying the information and take you right to the head of the class and some master tips for entrepreneurship in this area. So first of all, to just sort of statistically kind of give you grounding here, this is a very, very exciting area. 3/4 of high school students say they want to start a business. 66% of millennials. They're showing up at droves. Jim mentioned that I work at Harvard, and I particularly find with the Harvard Business School students that if they haven't started a business by the time they graduate, they feel like total failures. It's insane. Like, I have to talk them off the ledge, but it's such a big thing in the culture right now. Kickstarter has been the gift that keeps on giving. Crowdfunding. In 10 years, $4.3 billion of projects that have been funded. Projects that we wouldn't have known about before are happening all around us. Indiegogo also, $1.6 billion. And then patents, patents are not for sissies. These are a hard thing to obtain, trademarks. And look at those spikes in patent applications. The biggest one is China, admittedly, but the US is the blue line that's also traveling right up there. Most of it started just before the recession, and then the vertical climb really happened. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I started the Grommet, because it kind of grounds you in why there is an opportunity for this business and some things that are happening. So I was working actually at a big company, Play School, that Jim mentioned. And I noticed that our best products, like our new ideas, the exciting things, would get a certain way down the field and would never get launched. And that made no sense to me because we were fantastic at R&D. And I asked my boss at the time, like, what gives? This makes no sense. And she said, she's famous now, Meg Whitman. She ended up running Hewlett-Packard and eBay, but I worked for her when she was just Meg, and she told me, look, if Kmart, Target, Toys R Us, or Walmart don't want it, we can't make it. We've lost the specialty guys. We've lost the locals who take risks on new products. Big stores can't. So that's our life right now. And that just really pissed me off, frankly. It made no sense to me. And that's a really good germ for entrepreneurship. I didn't do anything about it immediately, but ultimately what we set out to do is level the playing field so that these little guys could succeed. So I'm going to show you just a little bit of our history. Swell water bottles, something we launched. We launched Fitbit in 2011. This is what it looked like. We launched Bananagrams, a game from an 87-year-old grandfather who wanted to speed up Scrabble. Sometimes product trends actually drive product development, ancillary products, so OtterBox to protect smartphones. This is Simply Safe, and it was our first smart product, Internet of Things product, and it's a brilliant portable home security system. So just some of our history, and what we launch tomorrow could be one of these products in 4 or 5 years. So I'm going to make a really big claim and try to prove it. Small is the new big. And the bet that we've made is that human creativity is endless. And the thing, when we started the business, everybody said to us, like, when are you going to run out of ideas? And, I mostly was sure, but not 100%. And I could tell you, 11 years later, every single week, I see among those 300 products that come every week, several that, like, blow the top of my head off. And what I've learned is that a lot of people will think of an idea and then they start to investigate it and maybe give up because they don't see any evidence that this is viable. But what I've learned from watching these products come in the door is sometimes that idea and that solution, it's just waiting for you, essentially. You just need to do it. You need to be the person. I see it every single day. The second reason, beyond creativity, why small companies are really killing it is that large companies are kind of Darwinian. They eat their young, essentially. This is an example. So these two women, Irina and Jean, were working at a very big company, Unilever, and they had the idea to create an all-natural product line for children for body care. And this was a great idea. Everybody at Unilever understood it was a huge gap in the market. But then Irene and Jean were told what they always tell innovators at big companies. Well, you know, we've got to defend our legacy. Like, if we introduce this product, we'll probably knock something else we produce off the shelves. So you've got to show us that this can produce $100 million in revenue year one. And that hurdle rate is impossible to prove. It didn't happen. The product was killed. And Irene and Jean took their show on the road. So they created Fresh Monster. And our companies, entrepreneurs, to achieve $500,000 in sales in the first year, or $1 million, that's a home run. So that's why there's the legacy. There's no need to defend legacy in a little company. You're creating your future, and you have a huge advantage. Third reason is large companies these days have been under siege, especially at retail, and they're spending too much on marketing and not enough in R&D. Specifically, an example would be Pepsi is spending 1% of its revenue on R&D, whereas a company like Google is spending 15%. And you're starting to see market share change in grocery, things we eat. In the last 5 years, 19% of share went to small businesses. We heard how in Detroit, this is actually an advantage. Some of the best paying jobs are in food and beverage in Detroit. And what's really cool for these little companies is because companies are not investing in their own R&D, they're relying on mergers and acquisitions to succeed. And so M&A is becoming the new R&D, which is fabulous news for these little companies. Number 4, retail's been under siege. We heard a lot about that already. Luckily in Detroit, it feels a little different, like retail's sort of surging, but it's kind of counter in many trends. And so when you're a large brand, you start to, if you're all about discounting, retail became a sea of discounts and sameness, then cost cutting becomes your strategy, which also pretty much kills R&D. So I'm going to give you 5 lessons from how we make stuff now, and like even if you never read the book, like and you know somebody's pursuing one of these businesses or have one yourself, I want you to know these. I would let you down if I didn't tell you these. So first of all, when you're thinking about creating a business, it's all about go big or go home. We launched SodaStream, massive potential market. And the reason for this is what I've observed, at least, is it takes as much effort to build a small business as a large one. And you have so many more shots on goal. You don't have to be such a genius and narrowly hit a tiny target if you have a very large target market. And this is all about quantification in the beginning. Number 2, a lot of our companies, it's so hard to get your first product out the door that they just kind of naturally name their company after their first product. It's sort of a normal human thing to do, but it's a mistake. When you have a product, what a retailer or even just to support marketing requires is a full line of products. And so you have to really name your company after that vision. Like, where am I going and what is this full line of products? And this is an example. Leah Busquet, a friend of mine, started Run My Errand because she ran out of dog food. And she had this notion that if she could create a digital service of errands, that would be a great thing. Ultimately, she quickly built services that went well beyond errands, like building IKEA furniture and business tasks, and the company had to be expensively renamed TaskRabbit. So try to get in front of that expensive rename, because it will happen if you narrow your company name. Number 3, protecting your intellectual property. There's nothing new about saying this is important. That's been true for a long time, whether it's your trademarks, your logos, design patents, utility patents, but something dramatic changed in 2015 that has made this way more important. What happened was probably the most brilliant business person ever born, Jeff Bezos, was increasingly concerned about his competition on Amazon from the Chinese marketplace Alibaba, and wanted to learn what it was like to siphon off Chinese suppliers, essentially. And so he changed a really critical role on Amazon, which was you used to have a domestic representative. If you wanted to sell to American consumers, you needed some American presence in the country before that product could be sold on Amazon, France, Canada, anywhere. He removed that rule, and it was a wildly successful move. Today, the Wall Street Journal just reported 3 weeks ago that 40% of the listings on Amazon come straight from a Chinese factory. And here's the issue and why it relates to IP. Those companies have not taken time to build a brand or operations or customer support in the country, and they're using Amazon data to draft off American IP. And most of the products we see from those listings are counterfeits and copycats. And so what's happening today is that although Amazon is arguably the most innovative company on earth, in terms of its impact on the rest of it, I'm actually claiming that it's the biggest net destroyer of innovation in history. Lesson number 4, prototypes are true serum. A lot of new entrepreneurs dive directly to refining and producing their first idea. Big mistake. James Dyson, the British entrepreneur with the cyclone vacuum, 6,000 prototypes. Now, I don't recommend it, 6,000, but several prototypes and rounds of talking to strangers. You should not fall in love with your product until strangers do. Final lesson. Don't lose money on every unit. Sounds basic, but there's actually a hidden sort of rule of thumb in consumer products. Your price of your product, let's say it's $100, the cost of it should be 1/5 or less, so $20. To get this product produced in a package into a distribution center, 1/5 is a really good rule of thumb. And a lot of folks are assuming today that they can go direct to consumers. You hear a lot of ads about cutting out the middleman and making everything cheaper. It's not true. You're going to spend 50% to have a retailer help you get your product to market, or you're going to spend that same 50% as digital rent to Google or Facebook. So you've got to have the margins in your product. So know that from the beginning whether you can make money. So those are kind of like my master lessons. I do want to just leave you with maybe more of a personal thoughts for each of the people here in the audience. I'm going to leave you with 3 ideas. One is we've heard a lot about supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs and how to foster entrepreneurship. I encourage you to think really hard about what you really care about in the world, whether it's sustainable living, whether it is underrepresented entrepreneurs, whether it's products that are made in the USA or have a lifetime value. Just think about that and direct a lot of your time and attention in those arenas, because you have so much power. We control 66% of the economy, but you have to be thoughtful about it to get the results you want. Second thing I would sort of encourage you to do is think about diverting we all have a massive Amazon budget, to local, to retailers who actually do protect us from counterfeits, to buying directly from the stores, or from the products makers themselves. And then finally, I think you can do this with just 10% of your budget and be incredibly powerful. If you take just 10% of your budget, so much of life is like 100% or nothing. 10% is incredibly powerful. Directing that against the values and things that you care about, buying directly from companies that are building jobs and enterprises in their local communities. There is such a joy in these companies, and there's such a joy in these businesses, and you can just take 10% of your disposable income and have a massive, massive impact on outcomes and who gets to pursue these kind of companies. So thank you very much. My book's right at the door. If you're interested, I'm going to go out there and sign them for anybody who wants to get one. Thank you.